So today we are going to talk about the especially the legislation, the fisheries legislation, as well as the institutional involvement, and also the management aspects of fisheries. I think we have come to the the most important topic in our fisheries management lecture series. Right? So before going into the management aspect, let's talk a little bit on the major issues with the marine fisheries sector in Sri Lanka. It's not only in Sri Lanka, everywhere in the world. There are a lot of issues in the fisheries sector, as you know by now. But what are the unique type of issues that we have in our marine environment? As we already discussed previously, most of the issues actually arise in the fisheries sector after introducing newer fishing methods, as well as the new type of fishing crafts, and without considering management aspects or the consequences of that, like the introduction of efficient fishing gear, like a purse seines maybe, and efficient fishing crafts as well. But the time of introduction, these things, but they didn't consider very much about the what would be the consequences, as well as the, like, if going to be any conflicts. So, and that's where they start some of the conflicts as well, which means that without much long-term plan, like as always in many aspects, so this is also without much planning. So the other issues included the related excessive fishing effort, too many boats, too many fishing gear, and the other thing is the overfishing, of course. Now, compared to the terrestrial environment, the most important aspect in the marine environment is like the human impact on the marine environment is actually the over exploitation, and that's mainly the overfishing. And together with the degradation of coastal habitats and a lot of different types of pollution, that all making the fishery, the sustainability of the fisheries is really a question, because we don't do anything good for the ocean. We do everything bad. Like, we can't think of anything that we do good for the ocean, right? So if you look at the specific type of management issues with respect to the marine fisheries sector, the lack of reliable information, especially the long-term data unavailability, is one of the key problems. Now, this has been discussed in several decades now, but still we don't have a very good database. It's not only for the fisheries, for everywhere, even for the, these days now we are experiencing this COVID situation, but still we don't have a very good database. With all these technologies that we have, from smartphones to smart devices to GIS technology, you can collect data within the fraction of time, but still we don't have the systems to collect these kind of data, right? So that is unfortunate. And another issue actually with the like some of the internationally important aspects are not considered in our legislation. For example, the IUU fishing. That is not part of our legislation. We never thought of IUU fishing something important, but by now, of course, we know how important it is. And from that to the post-harvest losses, a greater proportion of the catch actually lost, or at least they are not in good quality. It is unfortunate that we have to discard some of these, or we are not getting the marketable price because of their low quality, and we won't be able to export some of these because of the low quality. Right. So this is again something unnecessary. And also the research inadequacies and weaknesses within the institutional level, especially the capacity within the institutes, and also the personal capacities. It's also a huge question, because the fisheries management, as you understand by now, need a lot of background information from biology to the economics to the management, and you need even technology. Right? It's a multidisciplinary subject. You need people with a lot of capabilities to manage the resource. So that's where we have to think of something better than this, right? And another issue is like the resource surveys. We haven't done any resource surveys. Actually, the last resource survey was done in somewhere 1979 to 80. That is called the Dr. Fridtjof Nansen Fisheries Resource Survey. So imagine how many years now, almost 40 years now. So we haven't done any resource survey, and we don't know how much fish left in the ocean. How many fish there, we don't know. And we are keep on catching. So we can imagine how it's going to be in the future. And in reality, actually, there is no much that we to talk about the fisheries management, because we have, of course, regulation, but in actual management is very weak in many cases, and that's where we need to have a very good management system within our fisheries sector. It's considering the lesson learned from the past, as well as the international experience, what has happened in the other countries elsewhere in the world, and considering these things, we have actually developed our fisheries sector. And that's why some of people like you need to have a very good understanding on this subject. If any of you are going to be a fisheries manager in the future, so at least you have a better understanding than many of the people in the country, right? And the other things like the community responsibility, especially the fishermen. I have mentioned several times that they are the immediate beneficiaries of the resource. So they have to come first to manage this resource. So if they are not interested in managing this, no one else would. So they have to play a key role in the management, right? So that is another thing, and also the lack of monitoring and surveillance, particularly. It has been true, like even the foreign vessels, foreign fishing boats has been fishing in our area, especially the Indian encroachment by these Indian fishermen. But we don't have much surveillance system. Even we do have, I mean, we don't have much power to go against this kind of a powerful nations. So likewise, there are a lot of issues, and together with that, sorry, the other issues like the low contribution to the economy and the lack of professionalism in the industry. Right? So being a fisherman doesn't consider as a professional job, but as we know by now, it is really a professional job. You can make it a professional job, but we don't consider it as like that, right? And the socio-economic issues with the fishing communities, like most of the fishermen, they are very poor, and it's very hard for them to remain in this industry, especially with all these issues. And they have no any security. They don't have job security, and they don't have any pension schemes. So they don't have much security. And so likewise, there are so many issues that we need to think of when considering fisheries management. That's where we have to go several steps further from where we are now. So now, in reality, we need to actually reform, like many other sectors in the country, from education to from everything, we need to reform even the fisheries. And fisheries is not an exception. Many sectors need reforms because we are really dragging behind, especially we don't use much science. This is unfortunate in every aspect. We are very much non-scientific nation we have become, unfortunately. So the fisheries sector is considered as like a sort of underdeveloped still and very unscientific and without management. So you can imagine how it would be without all these like underdeveloped and unscientific, and there is no proper management as well. So the situation of the fishery, we can imagine how it would be. Like I have put some images here on your left top, like how this is how we engage in fishing, like how much labor that we need to do, like even dragging a boat into the landing center. I mean, this is quite obvious. Every day, every morning, you see this situation. Any beach that you're going, sometimes even the fishermen will force you to. Sometimes they request whether they can help to like drag the boat. Sometimes even force. I have seen they were even forcing the tourists to like drag this boat. It's so unfortunate. I mean, it's unfair. But like simple devices, as you can see here, would this kind of a job, and you don't need like rocket science to do these things. Right? Even the Basun in your hometown will do this kind of thing, but we don't. I mean, we don't really innovate this kind of. Even we don't have to innovate actually. We just need some gadgets. As you can see in the bottom, this is how they do. This is an image from Australia. I have seen like most of the houses, they have their own boats. Right? They don't need so many people to carry boat. You see only one person sometimes doing everything, right? Taking the boat from home, not from the landing center, right? It is usually parked at home, taking it, dragging with their four-wheel vehicle with a trailer, and they just reverse and put it into the water, and they park the car and go to the sea, right? Just one person enough to do this whole job. Maybe one, maximum two. I think even single person can do this. So that's because they have the devices. I know, I mean, they are not all rocket science, but still you can do. And even with the ice, you can see in the next the screen. You see, this is how we are handling the ice cubes before going into the sea, right? But you know, there are a lot of devices that you can do, like the crushing the ice and then loading into the boat. You can use like a very simple instrument, gadgets like here, even carrying them, or even like here, there are some like a belt you can use to load ice. I have seen this in the Nigambu now, but most of the fish landing centers, they don't have these things, right? And in your left, you see the situation with the fisheries in Sri Lanka as well as the fishermen. They are usually how they are doing, and on your right, you can see how, like in the world with the managed fisheries as well as much developed fisheries, how you can, like, you know, they are even dressed well when they are fishing, and these differences are really very important, right? to give some sort of a professionalism in this industry, right? So that's where we have to think a lot on this industry, and also we are talking about this, what we call the blue economy. The whole world is talking about the blue economy. In order to get the maximum out of the blue economy, so we have to do a lot. Right? We are no way there. Even we are not even close to like to get the maximum benefit out of this, what we call the blue economy. Though we are island nation with a lot of marine resources, but still our resources are badly managed, and and resources are depleting even without much management, and we have a lot of issues. And together with the other difficulties that we cannot fight with the international communities, especially in the international waters, right? and other issues like especially the artisanal fishermen, they have a lot of issues sustaining their industry as well as the livelihood. Especially they find it very difficult to compete with the commercial fishermen, and making them extremely vulnerable for the the poverty. You know, they have a high risk of poverty, getting poor, right? So and so the other, like the poor infrastructure facilities, as I mentioned, likewise there are a lot of issues in this sector, right? And the other thing is the skills of the fishermen. Of course, they have these skills, but still there are a lot of things to be developed, especially for the navigation, as well as for catching fish in more scientific way, or more to be more efficient. And especially you have to compete with the international communities. In this sense, you have to be very skillful in this industry, and to catch fish in a least amount of time safely. So that's why I need a lot of skills, right? And the other things like the other industries that associate with fisheries, something like sport fisheries and other whale watching, some additional income sources has to be developed within the fishing communities, because there are some seasonal variations as well, right? So these things we have to think seriously, right? And there are even I have summarized some of the issues that you can go to. I don't know to read these things, which we have already discussed. Okay, so now we know that we have enough issues in the fisheries sector, same as most of the other sectors. So let's see how we are doing in this, or at least the legislation part, and who is actually the institutional involvement, who is involved in this fisheries sector. That is the line ministry, what we call it, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development. So this is actually the screenshot I took from their homepage. I don't know, homepage says just the Ministry of Fisheries, but it should be in the top one. Actually, I got previously Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development, or others Aquatic Resources Management it should be, but the website doesn't have even the full name. Anyway, this is their vision and the mission. So how they manage fisheries, or what is the regulation behind the management of fisheries? The legislation or the regulation that govern the fisheries is called Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act, or what in short term we call the FARA, the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act, mainly the number 2 of 1996. This is the main act now enacting, but there are several amendments thereafter, right? Several times there were some amendments, and that's the governing regulation in Sri Lanka, together with the amendments. Right? But so this is the actually a screenshot from the that legislation. Now this is the government gazette notification. Usually regulations come as a gazette notification. This is called the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act number 2 of 1996. You can download it actually from the internet if any of you interested. I don't think so. Um, so there are so many information in that legislation which we are not going into detail, but we will have like a we will just talk about the brief summary of the legislation. But as we have already discussed, this legislation doesn't have much to do with the IUU fishing, and but later actually now the regulations are updating. But as part of this, the issue with the IUU fishing, actually the fisheries authorities have introduced something called the VMS, that's the vessel monitoring system. On the bottom, you see the control room in the Ministry of Fisheries Department, where they are monitoring actually all the fishing vessels around the country as well as they live in the country. Well, because they have these GPS systems where they can monitor wherever they in the world, they can monitor from here. It's called the vessel monitoring system. Right. So as per the Ministry of Fisheries website, this is their objectives: improve nutritional status of and food security of the country. It's very good thinking. Then the minimize post-harvest losses, which is very good thinking, and increase employment opportunities. That is something to think of, because increasing the employment opportunities is not something going to viable or sustain, especially in the fisheries directly, but maybe related industries like a processing or export, something like that would be something possible, but maybe not direct fisheries employment opportunities won't be any good for the sector. And increase foreign exchange, again very good thinking, and then especially to promoting the value added export, that is also very good. But unfortunately still we're spending a lot of money for the imports rather than export. Okay, then the other thing, the promote fishery based recreational facilities, which is very good to divert some of the fishing pressure into the other income sources, maybe fishery related, but not directly catching fish. Right. So as per their website, these are what are their functions, what they are doing at the moment. Right. You can read. I don't want to go into very detail, but development of the fisheries, the policies and program development, the expansion of fishery harbors and other infrastructure, and improving the quality, product quality, and then research and development, and the improvement of the quality, especially the export and oriented fishery. Right? These are some of the claim that what they claim as their main functions. Right? And who is really involved in this fisheries management, as we already discussed, is the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. That is the line ministry called the DFAR. And under that, there are several agencies or departments, like NARA is one of them, is actually the research wing of the Ministry of Fisheries. Their main purpose is to do research related to the fisheries. It's their mandatory job is to do research on the fisheries management, fisheries related thing. Then there are NACTA, and Seafish is the commercial fish marketing chain. It's called the Seafish. Then they have the CFHC, that's the Ceylon Fisheries Harbour Corporation, dealing with the fishery harbors. managing the harbors. Then the Sino Foundation is the like a boat building and then fishing gear building agency. And there are national fisheries federations, like it's a society of the fishermen. Right? These are the main like the institutions as well as the other agencies who will be involved in the fisheries in the country. Right. So I have just few slides of what are the major roles of these different institutes, like the Ministry of Fisheries, and under that they have a Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, right? So don't get confused. There's a ministry. Under that ministry there is a department with the same name, Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, called DFAR. The other one is the MFAR, that's the ministry. In the NARA, you have the NACDA. Earlier there was what called the Coast Conservation Department, and it was under then the Ministry of Environment later on, and now it is under Ministry of Defense, if I remember. So it's not under the fisheries anymore. Right. So how countries do management? Also, what are the initiatives they do? The main initiatives actually for the management actually by way of limiting many different things, like a number of boats you can limit, number of fishermen can be limited, then the fishing gear can be limited or restrict, or certain gear can be prohibited, something like you have to adapt different aspects, right? And especially the prohibition of illegal fishing gear. Like, so this kind of thing can be applied for managing fisheries. Right? So how these are done? So to do these things, actually, to initiate this kind of a management aspects, we really need a laws and regulation. No, if there is no law or regulation, you cannot implement anything. You know, even like if you caught someone with using illegal fishing gear, but if there is no law or regulation in the country, so you can't go to the court. Right? You can question someone. So that's where for every aspect we need to have some laws and regulation. And in this slide, I have mentioned all the laws and regulations that apply to the fisheries management. As we have already discussed, that the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act number 2 of 1999 is the main act, and actually that repeals, I mean, this with the new act, actually the previous act has been revoked, or now they have, instead of all these acts, now the Fisheries and Aquatic Resource Act has been enacted, and this act has been again amended a couple of times. At the same time, there are some other regulations different times under the through the Gazette notification, they put new regulation, right? So if you don't know these things, just you don't have to worry about these things, but just you need to have some insight on these aspects. Like there are fish product export regulation, right? That you can't export everything. There are some regulation what can be exported, what cannot be. And then export and import of live fish regulation. There are some fish who can be exported, but there are some restrictions as well. And even for the imports, there are some regulations. Then fish processing and establishing regulation, and fishing operations regulation, aquaculture management regulation, and inland fishing. Likewise, there are few regulations that the whole fisheries sector in the country is governed from these different legislation. So if you look at the main act, what we call the Fisheries and Aquatic Resource Act number 2 of 1996. So this is the main act. So this act has certain like there are several sectors which is talking about the the different aspects of management of fisheries. Like there are sections or the parts, as you would see. I mean, you don't have to memorize these things. Just I'm giving a brief description about the regulation. At least you should know what a regulation look like. Right? So the part one describe fisheries administration. Right? It's talk about the like what are the roles of the minister or the administrative people, what is their role, right? And the part two talking about the licenses. Right? So that is where the regulation talking about the license, like what kind of a license to be taken, who to be obtained, what is the procedure, everything discussed there. License must be obtained from fishing, which must be practiced in accordance with the condition. So all the fishing practices, they have to get some license. Then the fishing boat registration is in the next part. All boat owners wishing to fish in Sri Lanka waters must register their vessels. Right? All the boats has to be registered. Though the registration like that, you will see it's so many boats around the country, especially the traditional fishing vessels, they have not been registered. Even vehicles are there unregistered yet. But but that is the regulation. Then the part 5. So the 4 actually it's very important. Again, it's talking about the prohibition and restriction on the fishing methods, as well as the restriction on the imports and exports. So the part 4 of the regulation talking about the restriction. That's all looking at the protection. In the part 5, it's talking about the fisheries reserve. Right? We'll discuss this in later on, like what is a fisheries reserve, the fisheries management areas actually. So that's the part 5. Then the part 6 on the aquaculture. So which areas being allocated for aquaculture. Then the part 7 on the settlement of fishing disputes, like if there is any issues on conflict, how these going to be resolved. These are discussed in the chapter 7. Chapter 8 and 9, the power of the fisheries administration officers, right? The administrative officers' powers. So these are very important to who can tackle a person who is operating a fishing gear, illegal fishing gear, something like that. What are the powers they have, how it should be administered, like all this information there. Then the part 10 talking about the power of the minister of fisheries, right? So part 10 is the most important thing. No matter whatever above, at the end actually, so he will be the sole power of deciding most of the things, as per as our system, that's how it works. Anyway, so that is the summary of the Fisheries Act. So as I mentioned before, there are a lot of regulations for different purposes under that the fisheries legislation, right? And other than that, even there are few other like gazette notifications, like lobster fisheries management regulation, and there is a purse seine net fishery regulation, likewise beach seine regulation. So all these are time to time they have put these as the gazette notification for the for different purposes, and particularly when there is a conflict or some between the fishing communities, then they will issue this kind of a gazette notification to avoid some disputes, right? And also in the same fishery act, talking about some importance of like a co-management or the community participation in the fisheries management as well. They're talking about like fisheries management committees together with the the fishing communities, especially the community leaders. So these things are also discussed in the provisions actually, rather than discussing the provisions as given for like establishing this kind of fisheries societies as well. So that's how this the fisheries law or the regulations acting on the fisheries sector in Sri Lanka. So in the next image, actually, I have put some key things or the key aspects of the fisheries legislation. Like under the fisheries legislation, the spear fishing, like using a spear gun and or other like a sharp devices like this is illegal. So you cannot use a spear gun for fishing anywhere in the country. It used to be as like a sport fishing gear, and not even like some commercial fishing as well. Now it is illegal, but still, you know, some fishermen still use the spear guns, especially the sport fishermen. But it is illegal. Using like explosives is totally prohibited. Using the trammel net, like a several layers of a gill net called the trammel nets are prohibited. Push nets, harpooning, and all the monofilament net, like we call the tangus, there these are prohibited. And there are something called the moxie net. So all these are prohibited. Then for the lobsters, during the February, September, and October months, you are not allowed to catch the lobsters because that is the spawning season. I don't know these things are actually monitored, but this is the regulation, and the others are the chank, vellam, or the sangu, what we call. They are like a smaller than 70 millimeters, right? They are not the legal size limit is 70 millimeters. Anything below you cannot catch. And these are actually the what we call the monofilament nets. These are prohibited because these are very fine. They can do a lot of damages to the fish when they are operated, but they are very efficient. They are almost invisible in their water. So, but they are illegal, and the purse seines cannot be operated in the shallow coastal waters, and the bottom trawling is actually illegal. But there are certain areas in Sri Lanka they have given permission. Though regulation is not really talking about this, but there are some permission, not really permission, but some allowed to use, right? And this is the list of marine fish. On your left table is the marine fish prohibited for export. Right? The scientific names are given here. They are prohibited for export because of their like a sort of a threatened category. And the other species like this, they are restricted. Doesn't mean they can export, but there are limits. With some limitations, only you can export, right? Okay, so that's the regulation on the fisheries sector. And other than that, there are some international partnership as well, especially with the what we call the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. I hope you have heard about this thing. It's called the UNCLOS. UNCLOS, 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 and the UN Fish Stock Agreement, and there is like a regional level bodies like Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. So we are part of these things, but it doesn't really mean that we are really into these things, but we need to comply with the international and regional level laws and regulation as well, right? It's not just the national laws, but we have to comply with the international laws as well. So that's also very important. And if you go to their website, they are talking about lot of action plans within the Ministry of Fisheries. For anyone of you interested on, you can go to their website and search for more information. Then these are some of the things that I could get from their website. Right. So that's all about the the key legislation, the institutes involved, as well as what are the management initiatives from their side. Right. If you have any question now, we can discuss for a few minutes.